Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Buddy. Just a quick shout out to The Rec for hosting this podcast each week. The Rec, way more than a bowling alley. We drop a new podcast every Friday morning with a new story that will impact someone. We hope that someone is you. I just want to say thank you again to all the listeners each week who take the time to hear the stories of our guests. Please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast, give us a review, and share this podcast with your friends, family, and on your favorite social media platform. We want to get these messages out to the people and to impact the world one testimony at a time. And by the way, the reviews, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a review, we've got a few reviews on there. And more specifically, which podcast episode did you like best? This morning, I'm excited and grateful to introduce you to my friend and guest, Phil Hyre. Welcome, Phil.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Good.
So this morning started out for you at 46 degrees and a cold plunge. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I start my day. We got a new addition to the home. We got two dapple dachshunds.
Okay.
And so they're 8 months old, and that's
No way.
And that's two of them. I got a brother and sister.
Okay.
So that's kind of changed the dynamics of my mornings. Used to get up, go to the gym, get up really early. It used to be 4 or 5 in the morning, somewhere in that time. I was doing that every day, and then these dogs are like children.
You're starting over again. You thought you were empty nesters, but you're back to having little kids, but they're dogs.
Yes, we are empty nesters. That's correct. Everybody's graduated, gone, married, kids. So anyway, so it's up, and Rip, our boy, just had he just had surgery. So he just had his testicles removed, and so we've had to deal with that for a week and a half. So that's a process, and he's hyperactive and crazy.
Yeah.
So take them out, put them on a leash, walk the yard. And typically I wake up anywhere between 1 to 4 in the morning, and typically just to go to the bathroom, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk downstairs and I put 8 1-gallon jugs in the ice bath. And so when I do that, the dogs are downstairs in their kennel and they're going crazy. So I first load the ice in the ice bath, take them out, do the rounds, put them back in their little kennel, and then I go back up and lay back down. And so,
What time is that usually?
well, today was a little bit later. Today was 5.
Okay.
But like yesterday was 1. And
Wow.
it just was whenever I wake up to
When you wake up, you get up and you go do your thing.
but then I go lay back down. Now, so that's kind of been what's been going on for the last 7 months.
Okay.
Well, we got them at 8 weeks, so that's 5 months. We've had them for 5 months.
Okay.
And so, and then, and I did change the way that I was doing the cold plunge. Before I used to jump in it first, and then I would go get dressed or take a shower and get dressed. So I found that I wasn't getting the therapeutic benefits of it.
Okay.
You need to be hot before you're cold, not cold before you're hot.
Interesting.
So if you're, so it's go take a nice hot shower, get everything done. Then I immediately just, I walk straight down on my shorts down to the cold plunge, and I just step on in, and I sit in there. Like today was 46 degrees for 8 minutes, up to my neck, and close my eyes and meditate.
Yeah. And breathe.
And breathe.
Deep.
That's very, very important.
Cool.
So, yeah. And I've been doing it since May of this year. So it's, I've been listening to Joe Rogan talk about it for, a long time, and started doing some research on it, and took the plunge, and here I am.
Dude, I love it. Yeah. Joe, he's kind of an all-in kind of guy, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Cool. Hey, let me do a little introduction of you. This is what you sent me. Now, you and I have been friends from, I was trying to think, 2010, 2011?
Yes.
So just to preface all this, you and I met 2010, 2011, just during and shortly after the crash. So you and I were both licking our wounds, and we met because our daughters were in karate class with
Steele's Karate
with Sensei John, right?
That is
about
correct.
right?
That is correct.
So that's how we met. Well, this is really your story, is that you're a CODA child of deaf adults, so children of deaf adults.
I'm a child of deaf adult, correct.
Got it. And both parents were deaf.
Yes.
You're a multifaceted human being, a bit of a daredevil, happily married with 3 beautiful children and grandchildren. So how long have you and Tara been married?
Since 2000.
Okay, so 23 years and some change.
Yes.
Okay.
June 17th.
We'll get into how she puts up with you when we're, or how our wives put up with us. How's that?
Yes.
That's probably the fair
I
thing.
agree with that.
Okay. You have 3 daughters.
Yes.
You got to marry 2 of them off this summer.
Yes.
That was heavy. I mean, within 2 months of each other.
Yes. June 24th and August 5th.
Okay.
Within June. Oh, yeah. We got a break in July.
Yeah, okay. So month and a half or so. That's crazy. And now you have already 2 grandchildren and one on the way?
My oldest daughter, I have 2 grandsons from her, and I have a granddaughter. So I have 3 currently that are growing and doing well. And then we just found out that right after my daughters got married, both of them got pregnant.
They're both pregnant now.
They're both pregnant, yes.
That is so cool.
And Sierra is 2nd trimester.
Yeah.
And Mariah is 13 weeks.
Okay. That's exciting, man.
And she just found out that when she broke national records on her 402 deadlift and her squat at 372 and a bench press of 194, she was pregnant at that time.
She's pretty tough.
She didn't know she was pregnant.
Wow.
But she broke national records while she was pregnant.
National record. Where was nationals at?
Las Vegas.
Okay. That's a big deal. She's tough, man. She's like a Ronda Rousey tough. Like,
oh, she's tougher than Ronda Rousey.
Tougher than Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey is I mean, she's amazing. I mean, she's a world champ in jiu-jitsu, judo. She did judo, but now she's more into making money. But
okay.
It's just different type of personality.
Got it. Well, this is cool. When you were a very young man, you believed that you would not live past 25 years old, and now it's been 26 years, and you're still writing your story. So that's pretty cool. I mean, go back to you and I meeting 2010, 2011, and developing that relationship. Here's what I know about you. I've got a lot to say that I know about you, so I'm just going to rattle off some stuff, if that's okay.
Yes.
It's all good. But I know you and Tara have been married for a long time. You got 3 beautiful daughters and obviously some awesome grandkids.
Yes.
Already born and a couple on the way.
Yes.
That I didn't know about, so that was cool. 2 daughters got married. So this is kind of what I say about you. You're the kind of guy, when you decide to do something, you kind of go all in.
That is correct.
So things I know about you, it was weightlifting, karate, doing your job as a lineman. You got a few tattoos.
Yes.
How many tattoos you got now?
1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't gone crazy on it, but I mean, I have some.
Yeah. How many more are you going to get?
Haven't thought about it. I mean, I do want to finish my right side of my chest, and because I have a full sleeve, from my bicep all the way up to my chest, covers my pec and comes all down my neck. So I thought I'd build something on the other side.
It's gonna be awesome. Weightlifting, karate, lineman, tattoos, real estate agent for
2012.
2012, so 11 years, and you've done amazing.
No, 2012 too. Oh yeah, you're right, correct.
You've been doing cold plunging since what you said, May?
May.
Okay. And then really the list goes on and on. So I want to dive in, but I think you've been successful in many things, but success doesn't come without its problems. So I want to hear maybe, where'd you grow up? What was life like with 2 deaf parents? How did that shape you into who you are today? So just kind of give us maybe some of that journey.
Well, I grew up in Willits, California. So I was born in Ukiah, California, which is, we'll call it 2 hours north of San Francisco on Highway 101. So if people are looking for reference, so just follow San Francisco, 101, 2 hours north. I'm a child of the 80s. I think the greatest time of all time. No cell phones. I had a rotary phone as a child. And, no computers. And Northern California. So I grew up in a small town, which at the time was a logging town. This is Willits, and a logging town. And then my father worked for Rimco Hydraulics, which had military contracts. And they did, they built, for example, these massive 100 million pound or 100,000 pound shocks for the MX missiles and buildings. That's one of the things, not for the MX missile. They built stabilizations for them. They had a lot of military contracts, so they did a lot of interesting things like that. And then my mom, so yeah, he worked there. Again, my life has been kind of a mirror image of my father in the sense of he worked many different things. I mean, again, my father was deaf, so he was born hearing. He could speak and talk, and at 5 years old, as he called it, he did a spinal tap, is what he remembers. And at 5 years old, he went deaf. So if you looked at my father and talked to him, he would be able to have a great, you wouldn't know that he was deaf. He could walk in and have a great conversation with you and you would understand him. And he was a master at reading lips. So anyways, I mean, he, in Oakland, when they had he was a tree faller, in the 70s. He was a mechanic. I grew up when he worked at Rimco. He started at Rimco. Well, he walked in at Rimco back in the 80s. 70s actually, and they looked at him. Again, remember, this is a deaf mute man in the 70s and 80s. And from what I know, because I was born in 1972, he walked into Rimco Hydraulics, said, I want a job. And they laughed at him. They said, well, you go get a broom and sweep the parking lot. And my dad being who he is, and this is where I love this story, because he goes, okay. So he goes, where's the broom at? So he says, well, go talk to so-and-so. He gets a broom. And this is a big parking lot. This is a big building, big court, I mean, like, look at, we're in the bowling alley right now. So this is probably 7 bowling alleys big.
Okay.
He swept the parking lot and the whole side of the parking lot. He was there a week sweeping, and he went and got a wheelbarrow and rock, and he says, where do I put it all? So he swept for a week. They thought he was gone. And then he walked back in and he goes, okay, I'm done. And they go, what do you mean you're done? They did it as a joke because, in the 80s, 70s actually, it was a different time. This is a man with disabilities. This is a deaf man. You're deaf and dumb is what they used to call my parents. That was tough for me growing up. I got in a lot of fights because of that, because my friends would say, or not even that, just people go, oh, your parents are deaf and dumb, because that's what they were called.
Yeah.
So anyways, he walked back in and goes, hey, and both the managers walked out and they go, you did. So he got hired. And then he started in the front, and he worked basically it was in segments. Started at this building, was long and skinny, and he worked all the way up to the top position, back to the nuclear department. And again, this is a man that didn't graduate from high school, has no college education, but super, super intelligent man, and did things that would blow your mind. So that's what he did, worked in there. My mom worked in hardwood bee plant in a lumber mill. And my mom was 5'4", and my mom had me at 37 years old. So again, this is in the 70s, which it wasn't normal for women to have children that late. And, I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. They did not live with us.
You're the youngest all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I am the youngest of 4 brothers and 1 sister. And, my dad wasn't a nice man. Well, just, he was kind of a prick and mean. And so my mom was married previously. So my 4 brothers and my sister they're like my half brother and sister.
Okay.
And so they came into my life, and I think from what I know, I think they were there 8 months. And this is when we lived on Magnolia Street in Willits. And then they basically went back to Dixon, California, by Davis, Sacramento area, and that's where they were from, and went back to the grandparents and just left. And so I was kind of like all alone, and Fred was my biological father, and my Ava was my biological mother, but they were her children from her first husband. So.
Fred's only child, your dad was just you.
No, that's it. No, Freddie, my oldest brother. No, not oldest brother. Freddie, Fred had a child with another woman, and so he's another stepbrother. So I have 2 different
families. Yeah,
yeah.
Got it.
Never met her. Have no idea who she is. So, anyways, my mom worked in a hardwood bee plant, and her job was to primarily because, again, it's, what do you do with a deaf woman in a sawmill, right? And so they found a job for her because back then there was a machine that would cut the knots out of the 2x4s and 2x6s. She would get a whole unit. A unit is those big, giant, you see them in those lumber mill. They're long, 16, 18 feet long. And here's a woman that's 5'4", 140 pounds that could just grab these boards and pull them all day. And this is greenwood, so it's green boards.
Yeah.
And she'd pull them, chop out the knots. That was her job. And then she'd miter them. The machine would miter it, and then she would send it, and then it would glue it together and make a new one without knots. This whole machine would do it. She was just pushing a foot and running this all day. And so that's what my mom did all the way up till, let's see. Because again, she was 37 when I was born. Yeah. Probably to her late 50s. And then she was kind of retired and done.
Okay.
So, so raised in Willits, went to school in Willits. School was hard for me for a couple reasons. One, neither one of my parents graduated from high school.
Yep.
Didn't go to college. No, my mom did later. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
So school wasn't important for me or for my parents. So going to school was really hard. I would be called, if you were to identify me now, they call those kids ADHD, hyper. I was ADHD, hyper.
Okay.
Bouncing off the walls, really excited, so school was really hard and I had no guidance from my parents. So all through the years, school was tough. I did graduate from high school, but it was brutal. Sports, I was not allowed to play sports.
Really?
So I didn't get to play sports till my freshman year in high school. I played 1 year baseball, like Pee Wee League. And then after that, my dad said, never again, because I'm not going to be that parent that takes you around and takes you to the games. I don't have time for that. So all the way up till my freshman year in high school, never got to play any sports, zero. And my 8th grade year, I was working out in the gym and at the high school because I wanted to play football. I had this dream of playing football. It was pretty important to me. And because I was a 49ers fan and a Raiders fan back there in the 80s, Steve Young and Jay Rice and all that. So working out every day after, I saw this guy working out at the football field every day. And this is the summertime Willits. So, it was 100 degrees every day. And he was out there and he was training all by himself. And I'd go up to the fence and grab the fence. And I'm 8th grade. And I'd watch this guy. And then he looked over and he goes, hey, you've been here for a week. Come here. And so I'm kind of like, who is this guy? And he's all ripped and buffed and just shredded and just sweating. And he goes, my name is Mark Fowl. And I'm like, hi, my name's Phil Hyre. And he goes, I play for the Hornets out of Sacramento and I'm training. And it looks like you have some interest. So he goes, instead of standing there, I want you to train with me.
Dude.
And I go, really? And he goes, you just work with me. Just go alongside with me. Do what I do. I'm like, okay. So all summer he taught me how to catch, how to cut, how to play football. Never played football in my life. Oh, I back up. I lived in a mobile home park, and there was an area where I played football with the guys.
Yeah.
So I was athletically gifted because I learned how to do that, street football, but never played football per se. And I also ran that summer with him. I also ran a hill up a mountain behind my house every day. So when I showed up to Hell Week, my first year in playing sports, Hell Week was, again, like you said earlier, when I go all out, I go all out. And I showed up to Hell Week. Hell Week was a joke for me. I did it twice a day for a week, and I said, is this really what you do? And everybody else is puking and dying and all that. And the coach is just like, who is this kid?
Is Hell Week daily doubles?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a complete joke for me because I was in this shape of this is, yeah, I was beyond what the rest, everybody else would just show up. And do them and get ready for football. Anyways, played football, never came up the field, played JV, it was offense, defense, special teams, had a great time. The problem that I have with myself is I lose focus because of my attention deficit disorder, call it, if you want to call it that, or just, and if I don't have a strong guidance pushing me in a direction. So, I mean, I was to talk to not the college, talk to the high school. It's like, oh, this kid's going to be something. This is a kid that out of nowhere never played football. He's dominating, blah, blah, blah. Well, by the time I was a sophomore, I got a car and got into girls. And jumped up to varsity, which I shouldn't have. I should have stayed at JV, and just kind of lost interest and fell out of it. And I was going a different direction.
Yeah.
So,
did you lose interest or just gain interest in a different area, which made you feel like you lost interest?
I don't know. Having Mark Fowl push me helped me because, my dad being who he was, I mean, sure, he was there. But I mean, my life is very, we don't have enough time to talk about all the things, but for example, I wrote a letter to my mom when I was 12 years old, living at my sister's in Washington for the summer. And because my dad was mean to my mom and I was done with it. And I wrote a letter to my mom. I said, you make a choice. You either divorce him or I'm not coming home. And so I had to make the decision for my mom. My mom never stood up for my other brothers or my sister. And she was in love with Fred, which is my father. And so she wrote me back. Again, we didn't talk on the telephone. You had to write letters. Mm-hmm. And she goes, okay, I'll do it. So from 12 years old through on, I was kind of just my mom and I. And so meeting Mark Fowl was that father presence that really pushed me in football. Yeah. But then when he was gone, then I just became a kid from a single parent mom. And I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't get in trouble or get arrested or anything. But, I need guidance. I need someone pushing me. And I didn't have it. So I fell out of sports and didn't do it. But the blessing I got from my father the story I told you about pushing the broom. I love that story because, they did it as a joke and they actually went and slept in the parking lot. And that's how I am. If you told me if I went to your office, you're like, we'll go sweep the parking lot, I'd go do that.
Yeah.
Because you'd like that, you'd think I would just leave.
That's an honor, man.
And I would do that. And then I'd come back saying, hey, it's done. And so I pretty much have done that my whole life. And I've always had the motto, no matter what I did. I've worked at Taco Bell. I've worked at McDonald's. All the jobs I've ever had, I always did it to my fullest ability. Mm-hmm. So that's just who I've always been.
Yeah, yeah. This is good. So, okay, so you graduated from high school, from Willis High School.
No. Got this wild hair again. I got a wild hair. I had a 1964 Volkswagen Bug. Tom Bodell, colleague of mine at high school, says, hey, let's go to Ukiah High. We're sophomores.
How far away is Ukiah from?
20 miles.
Okay.
And we're like, okay. That'd be like going from Independence to Kaiser, going, hey, let's just switch schools because we can.
Perfect.
Okay. Why? I don't know. Let's just do it. So I went to Ukiah High my junior year. Talk about going from, and it was basically like a 2A school to a 4A school. So big difference. And I made it. I graduated there. He lasted 2 months and went back to Willis High.
Couldn't take it.
No, it was too much. So anyways, I graduated from Ukiah High.
Okay. So after high school, you don't go to college, you go in the military.
No.
So
my junior year, my friend Skip Spees goes, hey, the Army National Guard recruiter's been talking to me. I'm like, dude, we're juniors in high school. He goes, well, they got this really cool program. We could be a split option. I'm like, what do you mean split option? I was 17 years old at the time. He goes, well, your mom could sign a waiver and we'll go in the military together and we'll go to boot camp and AIT and all that together. I'm like, huh? Okay, sure. I was just, stuff is, okay, sure, whatever. My mom signed the paperwork. She's like, sure, take them. That's my mom. I'm like, oh, yeah, great. At 17 years old, the military owned me. I signed a contract and I was owned by the United States, the federal government owned me.
Yeah.
And so I'd go to drills and I was going to Healdsburg. And that summer after junior year, where all the other kids were out being kids, I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri at Alpha 610. And I did boot camp, regular Army boot camp at 17 years old.
17.
Yep.
That's a great story.
And then I graduated, came home, and I went back to my senior year in high school. I was still in school. Everybody had a summer. I was in boot camp.
How long was your boot camp?
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Okay.
And
was it hard?
The drill sergeant one day was in my face and he was yelling at me, and I looked at him, and me being, who I was. I looked at him and said, you know what, drill sergeant, you know the difference between you and my father is? And he looked at me and he was right in my face. I said, you can't hit me. Well, I ended up doing 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 crunches or leg kicks. I got smoked, as they would call it. Push Missouri farther down south. And actually, no, boot camp was really easy because it was actually easy for me because my dad used to come in my room with a white glove and check where that TV is, or that board up there. He'd check for dust, and he'd find dust on his finger and he'd smack me. So I was used to that type of discipline. You had a sheet, and yet in the military, when I was in, they gave me a sheet, and your locker had to be dressed. The socks had to be rolled a certain way, and I that was easy. And I slept on top of my bunk with a sheet. I had these bungee cords that kept my wool tight, and it was literally easy for me. And the physical was effortless.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy. Okay, so
I came back.
Yeah.
Went back to high school. So this is a little caveat that's interesting. So I'm in high school, my senior year, going to training once a month. That was down in Healdsburg, California. It's where my drill. You go down for the weekend. That's where I was drilling.
This is one week in a month. This
1 week
Army
in a
National
month.
Guard.
Yeah.
Okay.
They call them Weekend Warriors.
Weekend Warriors.
The earthquake of '89. Do you remember that in San Francisco?
Maybe, but no.
It was San Francisco Giants won the World Series, and they got the earthquake. So, anyways, I'm in class. I'm sitting there, and the principal walks in. He's got a piece of paper in his hand, and I'm like, oh, crap, what'd I do? Because I was kind of a troublemaker doing little stuff. Nothing big, but just... And he goes, come with me, grab your books. So I walk down the hallway, and he goes, hand this to me. He goes, here's your orders. He says, you've been activated. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, good luck, son, be safe.
Okay.
So when you get activated, you get federal orders. You get activated. And so I got these orders that I had to report to duty within an hour. Well, I got there when I got there, but and we went to Hamilton Air Base, and we had to go help the victims of San Francisco with the big earthquake in 1989.
Okay.
I'm senior in high school doing this, and didn't get to enjoy it because we just went down there for a week at Hamilton Air Force Base and sat there and ate military food for a week and then got sent home. But it was kind of cool little experience.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And then graduated high school, and then I went to AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, which is, your training for the military as a 31 Charlie, a rat rig operator, an AM radio operator, typed in a machine and send signal halfway around the world. And throughout my career in the military, made E5 by the time I was 21 years old. I was again, when I do things, I do it to this, I go all out.
Why? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I just, once I enjoy something and I like it, I do it. And I go.
But then you also, what I heard you say is maybe you get bored with something and then you stop.
That is correct.
Okay.
I lose interest.
I think it's pretty common with people, though. I think I'm with you on that, but.
I lose interest. And so, but I went all out. I was going to, I had multiple jobs in the military. I went from a rat rig operator to a heavy equipment operator to a light vehicle mechanic on Humvees to 88 Mike, which was a truck driver because I had a Class A. And then at the end, all of a sudden we came to drill one day and there's tanks on the yard and or an APC carrier. And we're like, what's going on? It says, well, we just got attached to the 40th Mechanized Infantry out of Texas. So then they transferred me from light vehicle wheel mechanic to track recovery, which is why I got this tattoo, M88.
Boom.
And that's because M88 is a track recovery. Was a tow tank. So I towed M1 Abrahams and any other tanks around. That's what I did towards the end of my career.
It's awesome.
So.
Okay, so how long were you in the military?
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah. Army National Guard. So
Army National Guard,
yeah.
11 years, but you got full entitlement because full entitlement for Army National Guard is 6 years?
It's 4 to 6. Actually, I do not. It's kind of, I don't have any, the only VA benefit that I have is my VA loan. So that's the only benefit that I have. I get no medical from the military. I get zero because you had to have 1 year active duty.
And you never...
I hit like 9 months active, meaning total.
Total, yeah.
You had to exceed the 1 year according to their Yeah. So no, trust me, I banged my head against the wall going, well, why I didn't know. So I don't have lifetime medical. I have none of that. But I do have the VA because I was dishonorably discharged. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for serving, man.
Yes, absolutely.
Appreciate that. So you get married. When does this all take place? During military, after military?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
Yeah, I was 24 at the time, met Tara.
You meet her in Ukiah or Willits or
Ukiah.
Okay.
I was a groundman at the city of Ukiah. So this is where I was becoming a lineman.
Okay.
I was a groundman. Groundman is the person that works on the ground, running materials, parts, basically you're babysitting the lineman up in the pole. They're screaming at you for parts, hey, I need insulinks and a side-by-side and blah, blah, blah. And I need this and that. And you put it in a bucket and you're running it on a hand line. So you're just running back and forth, running parts up to the lineman.
Probably in good shape too.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I was powerlifting at the time. So yeah, I was, yeah. So so let's back up a little bit. So when I graduated high school, I graduated boot camp, I was 142 pounds, about 3% body fat. It was really normal for Haiti kids there was not very many people a lot of people were in shape, but for me, it was just natural and easy. I was literally 3 to 4% body fat.
So real quick, so people get a context, how tall are you right now? What's your highest weight you've ever been?
Highest weight, 240.
And then how tall are you?
5'11".
5'11". So 240, you were pretty solid, but you weighed 100 pounds more than when you were at 3% body fat. Where are you at today?
Today, 210.
You feeling pretty solid?
Kinda. I've been a little lazy lately.
Okay. All right. I think that's you being hard on yourself, but
yeah,
that's okay. That's who you are.
So, but I always had this, for me, because I was so skinny, I had this problem with I'm tiny. And going back to being a CODA, being a child of deaf adults, I didn't know how to interact with people very well because I had deaf parents. And it's really hard for me to even understand what it's like to be a child of deaf adults. I mean, all I could say is there's a movie on Apple called CODA, and you got to watch that movie and really watch it from the beginning to the end, and you'll see what it's like being a CODA. It's so many parts in that movie are so true, very accurate, spot on. I mean, it's an open. I mean, there's so many different scenes that I'm just totally relating to. And they are so dependent on you, the hearing person, because the world is now today in 2023, it's a little different. So being a CODA of today, they have video chat. Like Trevor's working with some clients of mine right now that, he could call them up and they could talk on the phone. And it's so much different today than it was when I was a child because my dad worked on trucks and he'd order cams, manifolds, and carburetors for his truck. And back then it was called PAW, and I'd be on the phone 8 years old, and I'd be cussing at a guy on the phone for my father because he sent him the wrong parts. That was me, and the guy would be laughing at the other end. He goes, "You all right, son?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He goes, "You don't have to cuss." I says, "Well, my dad's reading my lips. If I don't cuss, he'll smack me." And he's like, "Oh, sorry about that," because my dad was pissed at him, but my dad couldn't talk to him. There was no way to talk to him.
Yeah,
I had to do it. So you had to talk to me to talk to him. And so as a child, growing up was very difficult for me, and I thought. And my dad did this. My dad was and I did a lot of this. I thought to make friends, you had to be the center of attention. And so I did many things, whereas that's the daredevil part in me. Mm-hmm. It was always pushing everything to the extreme and being the class clown to when it got into my motorcycles, I've done barefoot water skiing. I used to wakeboard, had a street bike, used to scuba dive. I bungee jumped. I just did a skydive just recently. And so but I'm not that person today, but growing up, because I watched my father do this, I thought you had to be the center of attention to make friends. And what I found out as I got older, and it took me a long time to figure this out, people don't give a rip about the things you do. They just like you for who you are.
Man, that's right there. If we just took away anything, that is it.
It took me a long time to figure that out. I probably into my 40s. I just really thought I had to always impress. So I was 142 pounds. By the time I was 24 years old, I was 220, bench pressing 315 7 times, 225 for 25 times, 405 for 1, 365 for 2, and I had a denim bench shirt. I bench pressed 505 in my life. So because again, I do extreme. And, back then, I think the world record was like 800 or something, bench press. So I'm like, I'm only 300 pounds away.
You're going there. You're going to find a way.
And then I hurt my shoulder, and then I quit. And again, because I get hard, heavy, got into it, went balls to the wall, and then quit. So.
Okay, I get you. I mean, I'm a guy. I struggle with the same thing, whether you know it or not, is I get all excited about starting something. I'm a weekend and then it starts to phase out, so I totally get that. Well, hey, walk us through marrying Tara, having kids. What are some of those lessons that you've learned along the way? What has marriage taught you? I'd be curious to hear, marriage is not easy.
No.
What has marriage taught you? What has being a dad taught you? And now being a grandpa. That's interesting. I don't see you. Yes, I know you have grandkids, but I don't see Phil Hyre as the grandpa. You're younger than me. I don't even have grandkids yet, but you're grandpa.
I am.
That's pretty cool.
It is. Well, back to the last line you said on there. When I was a young man, because of my life, I did not believe. I literally used to preach this to people. I told this is I'm not going to live past 25. Because what is extreme today is totally different from the 80s. I was the guy doing extreme. I used to race downhill mountain biking. That was the beginning of it. I used to mountain bike, race mountain bikes. And so everything I did was always to the extreme, which was big back then. And I just always said that I'm going to live this crazy hard life. I was into partying, chasing women, and I'm just going to be dead by the time I'm 25. It's just what I believed because, my childhood was not good. So I'm just like, this is who I am. I met Tara when I was 17 years old when Skip and I went in the military. Her father was an Army recruiter. So we kind of all hit it off. My friend,
Ron.
Yeah. Ron.
That's funny.
So he was an Army recruiter, regular Army. And that's why I met Tara. Skip actually dated her, which is my buddy that I was a split option with. And, but then they didn't work out. And then she had no interest in me all the way from 17. And I tried through the years. It was funny. I used to go out of her house. I used to look at Ron and go, I'm going to marry your daughter someday. And he would laugh. Ha, right.
That's funny.
Very funny. At the time, now my wife is a military brat, traveled the United States for 20 years because they traveled all over. And so she had no interest in a person that was white.
Huh. Okay.
So that's why it was a joke for me at the time because I knew that she never had any interest in me at all. Zero. And at 24, when I was a groundman for the city of Ukiah, she drove by, again, before cell phones. She goes, call me. So I'm like, okay. Then I'd go to the phone book, look up Mr. Ronald Johnson and, call. She was living at home. And she had Kayla. That's my oldest daughter.
Yep.
So my oldest daughter is her father's from Oakland, California. Mm-hmm. And he, so my daughter's half black and white because of Tara. So, yep. So she calls me and it was weird. The first week was really, really weird because she was actually, because I've known her since 17, I'm 24. And at that time of my life with her, she was like a sister to me because we just became really good friends and just knowing each other through the years. She was working out the gym. I'm doing my thing, living my life. But, my life was so crazy and I was chasing women and drinking and having a good old time, working, that was all part of it. But I never imagined that I would settle down because I thought I was going to be debutized.
You're dying.
By 25. And here she steps in my life. I'm like, anyways, after that week, start dating. And immediately because this is who she is a caretaker. She's a nurturer. I've never had someone come into my house and she was making me dinner and she'd come over in the morning and make me breakfast and just take care of me. And I'm just like, is this even for real? I'm like, whoa. So in a way, she swept me off my feet.
She swept you off your feet. That's interesting.
And here I'm the player, because When I was 18, I fell in love with this girl. She left me for a youth minister. And I, at that time, was going to go to, I think it was Oklahoma, to some youth ministry school to be a preacher with her or something like that. As I was in love with her. I was going to do whatever she wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Well, she broke my heart. She had my car. She went to Sacramento. She went to this retreat. It was a Christian retreat thing. She came back and dumped me. And she married the guy that put it on. So my heart was broken.
That hurts.
And so that was at 18. So pretty much from 18 to 24, I hated women. Hated women, not meaning I loved women, for one thing. But I had no interest in being any more than that because I was hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And then here comes this woman, Tara, in my life of just caring and nurturing and loving, a true, genuine, real woman that unconditionally wanted to just love me from the day one.
Yeah.
And it just swept me off my feet. So then we get married. I became a lineman, got married. We had Kayla because she was 3 years old. So I remember in Piercy, California, where we got married at, I remember when I married Tara, I got a necklace for Kayla, and I bent over and I gave it to her and I put it on her and I says, I'm marrying your mother, but you're also part of this marriage too. It says, we are one. And still to this day, my daughter's 28 years old and she remembers that moment.
That's sweet.
That was real special to her because all she wanted was a father.
That's right.
Unfortunately, her biological father, was not part of her life. And we never said he couldn't be around. He lived in Oakland, but he just chose not to be. So I became father. He became stepdad. She actually would call him Lawrence, and she'd call me, I was father. There was never a stepdad in this scenario growing up.
Yeah. That's great.
And then we bought our house in Ukiah, and then Mariah came around. Mariah was 10 pounds.
She's solid, man.
Oh, at 8 months, my wife at that time had a 14-person daycare or 14-child daycare, and Mariah at 8 months old was sitting at the table, banging the table, feed me and talking. And at 8 months old, just this something just out of this world.
That's great.
I mean, then Sierra came, so then of course I had 3 daughters, and one. Growing up the way that I grew up, it was really hard. And my wife always tells me, the reason you had girls is because you probably would have been really mean to the boys because of your childhood.
So girls softened you up a little bit.
They did.
I can see our similarities in so many ways. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, God also gave me daughters too because
they, I would still be hard. I'd still raise my voice. I would still do what I had to do, but over the years, they softened me. They have molded me to who I am today. And then Kayla met this man, and she moved out with him. And then she had Isaiah, and then 2 years later she had Micah. And then she separated from him, and then she came home. And then about a year and a half ago, she had Helena.
Sweet, man.
So
you got a tribe, man.
I do. And, having 3 grandkids is it's funny. I still don't, I'm not, I guess I haven't really accepted the fact that I'm a grandfather.
Okay. Today.
Even though I have an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old, and 2 in the belly, it's been, it's just, I don't know, just going back to, I'm supposed to be dead by 25, 26 years later.
Still writing that story.
I'm still writing that story. And
so embracing being a grandfather, grandpa or grandfather?
Well, they call me Pop.
Pop. Okay. But you're a pop.
I'm a pop.
Yeah. Embrace that, man.
Yes, exactly.
But that's changed your life, though. That's even, having kids is one thing, and then having grandkids, that's another level. And how's that softened you up a little bit?
It softens you. Well, the blessing is because I was so hard growing up or raising my own children. Now it's like when they come over, I could just here, have some candy.
Spoil the crap out of them, send them
Bob,
home.
can I have a soda? Sure, go ahead. And so it's really helping me lighten up being, there's a book called Drill Sergeants and Helicopters. I'm the drill sergeant. My wife's a helicopter. She's always hovering. Here's your lunchbox. Here, let me help you get in the vehicle. Or I'm like, get your butt in the car now.
Whoa.
And so there's a book on it. It's called Drill Sergeants and Helicopters. My wife was always hovering, and where I was just, no way, And so, and I'm still that way when it comes, when the kids fall down, the women want to, at least in my household, they're like, oh, and I'm like, whatever.
Nope. I'm like, yeah, same here. So it's part of the process, man.
It is. It is the pain. You have to endure the pain. And I've endured a lot of pain. I've endured a lot of pain over the years in many different aspects of my life.
That's a great story for you to unfold and really share, because I know you're a private guy, Phil. You and I have been meeting for breakfast for 12 years. We became good friends. I would call us business partners. Karate.
We used to fight each other.
Beat the crap out of each other. And that was funny. Like, I don't know, but we're great friends. I would call you a great friend. So you're good for me. I'm good for you. At least I hope.
Just so you know, buddy, I have a very small circle of people that I confide in.
Yeah.
And it's less than one hand.
Yeah.
I know, you look at my cell phone, I got thousands of contacts because I'm in the business of real estate, right?
Yep.
And I do a lot of transactions and I work with a lot of people, but I only have a handful of people that I actually confide in, and you're one of them.
And in reality, that probably is true with almost everybody. We just don't know it. We have all these relationships, but from maybe a military perspective, who's in your bunker? Who really has your back?
Right. That's 100% true.
And that's...
Who's your battle buddy? That's what I was trained. Who's your battle buddy? When you're in that foxhole, if you fall asleep, are they going to stay awake to protect you and vice versa? Who's your battle buddy? When you get shot, is he going to take care of you or leave you and abandon you and take off?
Yeah.
Who's your battle buddy?
Well, what does what does real estate look like right now? We'll just talk about maybe real estate for a moment. And now that you and Tara are empty nesters, you guys are in a new phase of writing
another chapter of our story.
Yeah, another chapter of your story. What does that look like? Because you're an all-in real estate guy. You do a phenomenal job. People love working with you, whether you know it or not, because you'll look at all the things you don't do to a perfect level. But most people would say, no, Phil Hyre does a phenomenal job. I think you're finally getting that you actually do a great job. But how does real estate look for you right now in your season? Where do you want it to be in 10 years? How are you and Tara writing this chapter of your life together? What's that look like?
Well, real estate today, I've been blessed. I just talked to a colleague of mine the other day, and he has not closed a deal since October of last year. I guess I have not realized, how many people are not working. My colleague in my office always likes to pull the numbers up, and there's 4,000 real estate agents in the Willamette Valley. There's about 1,000 of us that are active, and I'm in the top 100.
It's pretty awesome.
And I don't know how or why. I don't, there's no magic pill. I'm just still working, doing my thing. But it's, to be in the top 100, I suppose. Doesn't mean anything to me. I really don't care. I just keep working, moving forward. But it's been great for me. I rent an office space. I've done both. I've worked from home. I've made money from home. I've made great money from home. And then I just like to be able to get up, get going, go to my office. And I feel the office is a lost. I think for a lot of people, if you don't have a place to go, and that, I think of those 3,000 agents that are not doing business, that's probably part of the problem, because the model of real estate is really being, just work from home, just work from the bowling alley, work from the, work from a coffee shop. And it's like, I hated all that. I hated that. I like it that I have an office, place I show up, I lock the door on the way out. And, I still have a home office. Because there's times where I had to babysit the dogs, so,
yep.
Right. So I work from home. And then, right now is a great time to buy, in my opinion, because, in 2020 and 21 and the early 2022, you couldn't get what you wanted and you had to overpay for it. Yeah, sure, interest rates are at 2 and 3%. So what? Today, there's actually some inventory out there, and you actually get to pick your home, the one you actually want, and negotiate with the seller. And yeah, you're going to pay more money for it today, but what will happen in time? Interest rates will fall, and you can refinance and be in a better place. So, and that's how I feel about it. And people still have to buy and sell homes. That doesn't change, and no matter what the economy is. So, second question.
What's this new chapter for you and Tara look like now that you're empty nesters, and what do you guys do? You guys do some entertainment stuff. I like to.
Yeah. So I've always been, so when I was a journeyman lineman, any job that I've ever done, I always worked. And when for example, I worked for the City of Ukiah Electric Department. So the first year you get 2 weeks, and I was there 10 years or so. I mean, I already worked up like 5 weeks a year vacation. So my idea of vacation was come home and work on my property. I had 3 acres in Northern California. Mm-hmm. So I'd come home and work on the property. That was vacation for me. So my family suffered because of that, So Tara got to do a lot. She'd do trips up here because my father-in-law lived up here and her sister, where I would just work. That's my weakness. It's like, oh, you need to work. You need to do this. Don't enjoy yourself. So 2020, August, Mariah has been begging me for years to go down to the beach to go ride 4-wheelers. And I've always make an excuse. I can't, got to work. I'm busy, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, long story short, go down there. I haven't rode motorcycles. I used to ride dirt bikes too. I haven't rode a motorcycle, anything. I've never rode a quad in the sand in my life. Or a motorcycle with a paddle tire on the sand. Never rode one before in my life. I've been on dirt. I've done mini enduro trails, enduro runs, things like that. But that was 25 years ago. Show up there, get on this thing. It's like riding a bike. Craig, which is my Mariah's father-in-law now, Ashton's father, he could not, I have that natural ability. I got on this thing, and Craig's been riding for 30 years. Ashton, Cameron have been riding since they were born, and Mariah's been riding for almost 2 years now. And I show up the first day, and I'm just going psycho on it. I'm riding a 700 Raptor, which is, one of the fastest production bikes. Death. It is, and it's tuned up, and I'm just riding it like I don't have enough horsepower. So I want more. This is nothing, and we're going. And I'm riding these just having a blast. So I end up, I for years just drove my little Volkswagen cars and then I ended up like, okay, honey, now we're empty nesters. What are we going to do? So we buy a trailer, nice travel trailer. We buy a truck. I got a big 3500 Ram pickup. I go buy my own 700 Raptor, and we now go to the Oddfellows. It became an Oddfellows. That's all I can share about that.
Yeah.
And so, but I go to this place, and we have private access, and for almost 2 years now, and this is all new for me. I go down for a week, except last year, this year because of all the weddings. I still snuck down there for a couple days.
Yeah.
But now I go down for 3 weeks a year, and my wife is fine with being in a trailer, and I go enjoy a week down there at Florence is where we go, and I ride the beach.
Yeah.
And so that's all new for me and for my wife, and she's ecstatic because, again, I don't do vacations. So she finally has something that Phil will go do, and she enjoys it. So the next step is I'm going to get a toy hauler, sell my travel trailer, and I'm going to get a side-by-side because my wife has been on the beach, but she will not ride, but I want her to be able to ride with me and enjoy the ride because a lot of the couples do that down there. Some have their own side-by-sides, but she never wants to drive. She just wants me to take her out. Let's go out to the beach and watch the sunset. Mm-hmm. I can't do that with my 700.
Yeah, hop on.
Yeah, she won't do that. So, that's been kind of the new thing. And we took, my daughter got married up in Wallala. So it was on a ranch. So I took the trailer up there.
Yeah.
So took the trailer up there and stayed in it while setting that up. We drove the trailer down to California, and my other daughter got married. So it's just like we're living differently than we ever have before.
How cool is that?
I just never thought I would do it because.
And is your wife happier?
Much happier.
Okay.
Because, she's with me. She's holding my hand. We're driving together. We're talking. We now have our new additions, our dapple dachshunds, our new children.
Well, you softened up a lot, man. I tell you.
I have.
Us guys, we're pretty hard wired. We're hard, whether it's hard workers, focused. And it takes a long time to soften up a guy, and I can see it's working.
It's being vulnerable, and you know, I'm still a private person. I still have my defenses up. But it's accepting the world as it is, you know, because we're in an interesting time today, and there's a lot going on in this world. You know, United States, the world, and everything going on. You know, you could get into politics, you could get into the economy. You know, that's a whole. But it's just kind of accepting it for what it is and being okay with it, because, you know, I mean, sure, I could beat my chest and get crazy and lose my mind over it, but there's no point in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've just let it go.
Yeah. How has you know, you and I've talked a lot about God over time, and you've had your own version of what you think and stuff. You know, you can talk a little bit about Oddfellows. I would like to hear more about that. But how's your wife influenced you? And I know that your daughter, Mariah, and her new husband talk about what they did before they got married. I think that was really a cool story that I know that God's working. He's working in my life, and he's working in your life. What does that mean?
First and foremost, God has been in and out of my life, I guess you would say, or religion or church. I mean, my mom was Seventh-day Adventist. I just found something out just last week. I'm 51 years old. My dad was he devoted atheist. He told me that. That's all I ever know my dad is, an atheist. I just found out from my brother before I was born. He was hardcore Seventh-day Adventist. Even where Saturdays he took off, he wouldn't do anything, and that's how they lived their life at this segment of time. Again, that's where I get that hardcore. He goes balls to the wall, all out, and he does something. And so, but something must have happened with the church, because I did not know that my dad had a belief in anything. He always told me he was an atheist. So that was an interesting chapter in my life. I'm agnostic. I think that's the right word, right? So I believe in a higher power. I struggle to believe that there is one type of religion that we all have to follow and pursue, because I love and honor and respect all people. And I know so many different peoples from different backgrounds. And that's how I personally feel, that I struggle to know that, you know, there's only one religion, one word, one God. Or again, it's not, I know that there's something bigger than me. What is it? That I can't answer. I also learned something just when Mariah, so what Mariah did, you're back to that, and I can put two. So Mariah, right before she got married, she got married on a Saturday, or the 5th. On the 4th, there's a river, and OJ, which is my wife's brother-in-law.
Wife's brother, correct.
Your brother. He baptized Mariah in the river. And Craig, Ashton's father, which is my daughter's husband now, baptized his son. And that was like a big deal, because, you know, my wife's side of the family is strong Baptist. They have strong Christian values, really big. And so this was that was a big deal for them. And I didn't even know what was happening. We just said, we're going to the river. I'm like, okay. Which is on the property where we got married. So, but then it's funny you say that. OJ, which has been to Israel twice, went to that big Christian university in Southern California, big one. They have Bibles. I mean, Maverick, I can't remember the name. Anyways.
Masters College.
Thank you. Masters College. Yep. Is that Christian?
John MacArthur.
Yep, John MacArthur. He went to school there for 4 years. He taught in a Christian school. So, I mean, he has a very diverse, strong Christian background. And anyways, him and Cassie, I just found out, have, and they know where I stand and know how I am. They know how Tara is, but they look up to Tara and I. Okay. Because they have their struggles. Because we all do. No, everybody has their struggles in their marriage.
What?
Yeah, what? and I didn't know that. And he told her again. He goes, they are just blown away that we've been able to go 23 years, and to be where we're at today, and to love each other unconditionally, and to be happy and smiling and laughing, where they're strong, they're devoted, they read the Bible, they're going to church, and they have all these things going on in their life, and they go, well, but there's Phil and Tara, and they're just moving forward. How the heck are they doing it? And so I didn't know they looked up to me. I never knew that. And I'm like, what do you look up to me? I look up to OJ, because there's two people that I know that if I was to go, who's a true Christian, in my opinion, it's OJ Johnson and Buddy Puckett. Because you could die today and be good with what you've done with your life. OJ's the same way. OJ's like, if I died right now, it's okay. I know where I'm going. I feel a lot of Christians are hypocritical, and they're worried about so many things, stupid things. It's like, you know what? Why don't you read your Bible? Why don't you believe in God? And if you die, you're going to go to heaven. Stop worrying about these worldly things. I struggle with that. I have a good friend that been saved, blah, 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 and he has all these pressures of the world. And I'm like, dude, who cares? Who cares? So, anyways, it was just amazing that that OJ and Cassie actually look up to Tara and I, which I've never known that. So
that's pretty cool. Well, and these worldly struggles, I deal with them every day too. I'm a human being as anybody,
right?
And whether you know it or not, I struggle with worldly temptations.
Of course,
and I'm working out my salvation daily, trying to follow God and Jesus and doing what's right, and I fall short literally every day. So I'm a hypocrite too, Phil. I have to admit, and
not in my eyes.
Ask my wife. Get the truth. Ask my wife. But that's okay, because Jesus covers my sin, thankfully, right. and that's my belief. But I always appreciate you and I have great conversation. It doesn't change how I view you or anybody, how they believe. Is you have the right to believe however you want. But I also keep praying,
right,
until I die.
Well, you and OJ have both told me, and you've said the exact same things. Phil, you're more Christian than most Christians that I know. You told me that years ago. I don't know if you remember that conversation. And I remember that does touch my heart. I'm like, I don't even follow those values, but I do follow. That's what OJ was telling me, because Phil, you don't even realize how many values you do follow in Christianity or into a religion. It says you live it and preach it every day, but it says, yes, you're not devoted, you're not going to church, you're not reading the Bible. He goes, but you have all these characteristics, I guess you would say. And maybe because it's been ingrained in me growing up as a young kid, I did get it at, Seventh-day Adventists, whatever. But I do generally believe that you need to be good to all people, and you need to honor people and respect people. So, and
well, isn't that kind of what Scripture talks about? Is love God and love others.
Yeah,
love God, love others.
Right.
That's really the two greatest commandments. There's lots of other things we can do, but if we can just focus on love God, love others more than we love ourselves, and respect people and honor people, that's really all of it. You're actually doing exactly what Jesus asked. And I think a lot of times we actually, as Christians, we can be judgmental instead of loving like we're supposed to. Look at what so-and-so did. Oh my gosh. But yet we're trying to worry about the speck in someone else's eye, not worrying about the plank in our own eye. That's the hypocrisy of the Christian churches. Is I'm just a sinner saved by grace. I'm
a human on this planet.
I'm just like you and you're like me.
We bleed red.
So, well, hey, this has been really good. And I know most of your story, but I still love you sharing it, because it's important for people to get to know who Phil Hyre is, the real Phil Hyre, who actually does care.
I do.
You absolutely do. And
even though I come across hard and early in my career, I would get upset with people and raise my voice, and I've just learned to back off, suck it up, shut up, listen, let them vent. I get emails from people, and and I don't respond anymore. I've just learned to. It's their issue.
It's their issues, not yours.
And I just back off, and we'll get through it.
And really learning how to forgive ourselves. I don't know what you've done. I only remember what I do that's wrong, and sometimes not forgiving myself. You know what? Nobody really remembers anyway what I do, what I don't do. It's not really about me anyway. It's not about Phil Hyre anyway. But it is how you love your wife. It is how you love your kids. It's how you love people.
Right.
So, well, hey, is there any last little bits of advice you want to share from an early morning routine to, growing older, letting down your guard a little bit, letting people in. Is there any last things you want to just share?
Probably being more vulnerable in a way. Saying less, listen more. I tend to still do that, but I'm getting better. And, as I'm getting older, I'm 51 now, and what I'm seeing is we have to keep moving. Our bodies were not designed to be sediment, to sit, if you're sitting at a desk, get a stand-up desk. I have a stand-up desk. I stand all day, every day. Maybe at the end of the day after, if I'm in there all day, I'll sit down for an hour. That is it. But, invest in yourself, because if you don't invest in yourself and take care of yourself, thinking that you could go to the doctor and get a pill and you want to continue, you have diabetes and you want to continue to take a pill and still eat the bad food, that's not changing anything. And that's all that's doing is just prolonging the inevitable. Why don't you try to eat better? And, the pills from the doctor are, in my opinion, not supposed to be the lifelong drug. They're to help you to get off those, to cope with those issues, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And again, it's moving, exercise, doing things. Invest in yourself in health. Don't expect your insurance company to take care of you. Take care of yourself. It's okay to spend money on things that cost money. And, so that's where I'm at in my life today and still moving forward.
Yeah. One thing I know about you, Phil, is while nobody's perfect, you've tried hard to be healthy, working out, eating well, cold plunging, morning routine. I'd be curious, and maybe it's another podcast at some time down the road, but the greatest addiction out there is not drugs and alcohol, and it's actually sugar. Yeah. Drive by a Dutch Bros, a Java Crew, a Starbucks, and I'm one of those guys that it's just familiar. It's a habit, and
I'm just as guilty. That's my nemesis. That is my devil. You look at my tattoos, right?
Yeah.
I have a Capricorn. That was because when my mother died, she used to read the horoscope with me every single week. Even though she's a religious woman, she'd still read it because it was fun. And a true Capricorn is half fish, half goat. Go to the deepest part of the sea, go to the highest part of the mountain, which is how I live my life. The other tattoo is my life is balanced, but I have Adam the Archangel and I have a devil. My life is a struggle. Yeah. Every single day, if you look at my tattoo, which you could see, what are they doing? They're pulling on that staff every single day, back and forth. And, there's days that the devil in me wants to come out. Mm-hmm. And that would be where, even like last night, my wife bought Halloween candy. Why? I don't know. She normally never buys anything bad. There's Halloween candy. I ate 1 chocolate. I ate 2. I ate 7. I'm like, I'm done. I put it away and I walked away. Because I could eat the whole darn thing because it is bad for you. And I feel like crap afterwards. So, yes, sugar. Absolutely.
Okay. Phil, thanks for being a great friend. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thank you for all of you that listened this week. Listen to Phil's story. Phil, if somebody want to reach out to you and talk real estate, talk health, talk cold plunging, how do you want people to contact you to go and have a conversation with you?
They could. I prefer email.
Yeah.
Or a phone call.
What's your email?
Email is Phil, PHIL, at my last name, Hyre, HYRENW.com. So Phil at HyreNW.com. Or you could call me at 503-586-8537.
Awesome. Hey, reach out to Phil. He's a great guy. He's a great friend. He'll tell you the true story. So he'll never dance around a question. He'll tell you exactly what you need to hear. So Phil, appreciate you, man. And again, to all you guests that listen each week, we appreciate you. If you know of somebody who wants to be on the podcast that has a great story, please have them get in touch with me, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.